Amy Jo Johnson, what a great film. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. Doing a bunch of press because the movie's coming out next Friday, May 1st, which is very exciting. Gives me something to do right now in the middle of all this. It's nice
How,
to have that.
how does it feel having an art piece released in sort of this global situation that we're all in?
Yeah, the movie was set to come out May 1st in theaters. Um, and just shifting gears to have it come out VOD quickly, I think was the right decision because I think people are looking for something to do with their time right now. And I do think, the movie, as dark as it may be at times, also has some levity and some light to it. And I think it's a movie that a lot of people can identify with. Um, so I'm pretty proud of it, and I'm happy it's coming out right now. Yeah.
I know this is the second feature you've directed, but you didn't write this one. What was it like for you directing somebody else's script?
Yeah, it was an amazing journey for me. So I met Joanne Sarrazin, who's the writer, at the Canadian Film Center. That's where I went for 6 months to focus on directing, and she was there writing the script, actually. And so that's where I first heard the script. And I just responded to it on such a cathartic level. I found it so funny and so sad at the same time. I have a father who's a non-functioning alcoholic who suffers from depression. So he is basically a male version of Tammy in a lot of ways. Um, and so I asked Joanne if I could make her movie, and she said yes. And it was very interesting for me because it was the first time that I directed something that I didn't write. So crawling inside of it and figuring out how to make it my own was liberating in a lot of ways. Actually, it was nice to have Joanne on set. It was nice to um, have her sometimes in the editing room, and we really created this great respect for each other. And she was very, very kind. Like, she would have made a different movie, right? It must be very hard for writers to let go and let somebody take their baby and then like make their own vision of it. I loved that process. I would do it again for sure.
The film, I think, is very funny in a morbid sort of way. Why do you think people are so attracted to sort of things that are very dark but have humor in them?
Um, I have a bunch of things going on in my head, but first of all, that's like Joanne's sense of humor is very wicked. She has a wicked sense of humor, and I do as well, but not as wicked as hers. And that's what I loved about her writing. But I love as a filmmaker to take dark, heavy subjects and then to find the humor in there, because most of our lives deal with some dark, heavy subjects. I think we all can identify with so much of the film in different ways that, I don't know, as a filmmaker, those are the stories I want to tell. I want people to try and, maybe somehow feel a bit normal by watching, and then also maybe find hope. I think a big message of the movie is letting go.
Felicity Huffman plays Tammy in the film, and she's not an actress who's afraid to dumb herself down physically anyway. As a director, what kind of conversations do you have with your actors about the physicality of a character?
Yeah, she was pretty incredible. So first of all, we were so blessed to have her jump on the project and sign on board. She fell in love with the script, and I flew to New York and I met with her. And she says, I have a few questions for the writer and for you. And once we figure that out, I need to know quickly, because if we're shooting in October, it's, I think, end of July right now. Like, I have some work to do. And I was like, oh, what is she going to do for 3 months? But she did. She was shooting some other stuff, but as soon as that was done, she grew out her hair, like she got these teeth, and she was very brave. She's like an actress who just gives it her all. which was pretty great to have her come to this, production in Canada, small, and trust us, and also bring her A game. So it was pretty great.
And I know you actually worked with one of the other actors at Olanike. You two worked together on Flashpoint. What was that like for you, working with one of your co-stars in a directing capacity?
I love Olanike. I think she's a hoot. She's so fun. I just wanted her in the movie because I like to be around her, and she's fun to have on set, and she's also fun to have at a premiere. Like she is a personality, and it was an easy transition. She was so, respectful, and she just showed up and was like, "What do you want? Let me know." So she was really great.
We mentioned the humor of the film, but when we find out the significant event that happens, there is a bit of a tonal shift. As a director, how do you find that delicate balance, without ruining your tone and your story too much?
It's a journey, and it's a big journey in the editing room. The assembly of the movie at the start, Brian Atkinson was the editor, and he assembled the entire film, which was very, very long. And he really nailed the tone within that assembly. And then we went through a huge journey of trying to narrow down the movie, and then finding the story with bringing it down to only an hour and a half, and maybe getting lost a little bit within it becoming too dark of a movie and too dramatic. And that's not the story I wanted to tell. I really, really need that humor in there, so it's palpable, so that people can watch it and people walk away feeling inspired in some way. So that was a journey. At one point we were so lost, I actually took the whole movie. I took the assembly, and I took where we were at, and I put it in my iMovie, and I just chopped it up to rediscover and find the humor again within it, and then brought that into the editing room, and then we sort of worked from there as a roadmap in a way. But I think tonally, when you're dealing with heavy subjects and want it to have a bit of humor in it, it is very tricky. Yeah.
We see a lot of reality shows about dysfunctional families, toxic relationships, but yours has a very human element to it. What is the attraction for people who why are we so into seeing these types of relationships, do you think?
I think because most people come from families like that. It's a story about a girl who is a caregiver to her mother, and I think a lot of people have that in their lives, or dealing. My mom passed away of cancer, so having a family member get sick and go through that. There's just so much within the film that I think is universal, and so many people go through this stuff. What was the beginning of the question?
Oh, just know how your film has, it's a very human way of depicting dysfunction and toxic relationships, because
we see
that on TLC all the time, but
it's a very raw film, and I think that those relationships can be very raw, and that was in Joanne's script. That is definitely still within the movie.
Speaking of raw, how do you get your lead actress comfortable with the idea of being nude on camera?
Oh, that's just Felicity. That woman is a force. She is one of the ballsiest people I've ever met. She comes on set and demands respect in an amazing way that makes everybody rise to the occasion. And that was a very intimate and pretty probably scary scene for her to do, and she just did it. We made the set as small as possible, and we're very respectful, and yeah, I love that scene. You're talking about the bathtub scene, right?
Yeah.
It's such a good scene because the writing in that is just so again, wickedly sad but funny at the same time. And she does the whole scene nude, in the tub. And it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Brave of her, but vulnerable. She's very, very vulnerable in that moment. And I think it's a beautiful moment in the movie.
I was struck by similarities between that film and what we see now, because there's a lot of economic uncertainty in these times, and there's also a lot of economic uncertainty for Catherine and Tammy. How do we cope with death during times of economic sort of uncertainty?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, how do we cope with death at any time? I've lost my mom. I feel like I've almost lost my dad because he's, been missing, being present in anybody's life for a long time now. And grief is, it comes in waves and it's a roller coaster. But I do find that also within someone's passing, there can be a lot of beauty and a lot of, I don't know, blessings that sort of come from that at the same time. Because it's such a giant, it's the end for somebody, on to the next phase, that there's beauty that surrounds it. And I guess right now that's what a lot of us are doing, is searching for the beauty that is still existing in the world right now.
What struck me as really interesting is that this film is almost about the ethics of keeping someone who alive who doesn't want to be. How did you play with that idea?
Yeah, I think the film, at first, I mean, it's about a woman who threatens to jump off a bridge once a month to keep her daughter tethered to the town that they live in. But when she finds out she has cancer, she realizes that she doesn't really want to die, and then has to go through that transition of accepting the fact that she's going to die.
Yeah.
and 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 then Kathy having to let go of her. Yeah, I think it's all of the stuff within the film, I think, is very delicate. And it was, we shot it and just really played around with the performances and what we were giving. And then a lot of really defining the story came in the editing room, which I think it does a lot of times.
Speaking of transitions, you've made a very great transition from actress to director. How has that journey been for you, especially in this era where there's really a push for more female films and female filmmakers?
It's been the easiest transition ever, because I didn't love being an actress. I think I found myself a bit of a lazy actress because I didn't love it. I was a bit insecure. And as soon as I directed my first short film, I was like, oh, all the passions inside of me came up, and I was just like, this is all I want to do. So my passion for filmmaking and writing and directing and collaborating with the DP and the production designer and the writer, and all of it makes me so happy that I don't miss acting at all.
I know you still do. Do you think you'll still do it occasionally? Like, I know you did a couple of small roles in like Space and Time, which came out earlier this year. Who I had a chance to talk with Sean.
Yeah, actually, Joanne Sarrazin, who wrote Tammy's Always Dying, has written a script called Conception, and she wants me to play the lead in it, and she wants to direct it, which I find that's so fun to collaborate with her in that way. And 100% would I play that role.
Yeah,
for sure. So I'll act if it's something special.
My favorite line in the film is you can never see what's broken in a happy person, which is said at the end of the film. Why is it harder, do you think, to detect problems in people who have this cheery facade, if you will?
Yeah, I think my sister does that a lot. She is the happiest, most inspiring person you'll ever meet, but I know that a lot of the times inside she's absolutely breaking inside. I think people have born with barometers, right, of their level of happiness and where they sit at, and we kind of fluctuate around our barometer. Um, and yeah, and some people's barometers are like up here, even if they're really sad, they just walk with this like vibrancy and this joy that may not actually be as honest as it could be.
I couldn't help but notice, but in the thank yous and the credits, you thank Xander Berkeley and Sarah Clark, who are two great actors as well. What was their involvement in this project, if at all?
So Xander, I did a movie with in Bulgaria, God, 15 years ago, and I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I reconnected with him in Toronto. And him and Sarah became really dear friends. And actually, a week before I went into prep for Tammy, I went to Maine. They now live in Maine on a farm. And I went and stayed with them for a week because I was really kind of petrified, embarking on this giant, mountain I had to climb with this movie and finding my way in. And I spent some really good quality time with Xander, and he did a lot of pep talking. And I walked away after the end of that week, like really ready to shoot and believing in myself and what I had to offer. He was a mentor.
I just want to ask, in the era of reboots that we're in, have you been asked to be in the reboot Power Rangers, or is there talk of a reboot of Flashpoint?
Oh, wouldn't that be fun? I would love to do a reboot of Flashpoint. That I would act again for. No, there's no talk of that. I've seen some rumors going around on Twitter about the reboot or the remake of the Power Rangers, or the new Power Rangers movie, whatever it may be. Nobody seems to know, but I have not heard a word. I would do it. Why not? I think it'd be fun. I loved the last movie. I thought it came out great. Dean Israel, the director, I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, and you had a small cameo in that one, right?
I did, really super small. If you blink, you'd miss me.
I wanted to ask about the film ends with this young girl dancer who you sort of piece together is the younger version of Kathy. What went into that? Because it seemed it was such a unique way of ending the film.
Yeah, that came during prep. I was just trying to figure out what happens after that ending. I don't want to say what it is, but what happens there. And then I just thought, what if we see a younger version of Kathy, like young Kathy, just dancing with all the hope and joy before her mother, really started to affect her or emotionally abuse her. And the little girl, Chloe, actually was at my daughter's dance studio. And so I asked her mom, and I had her mother read the script first and then let me know if she was okay and wanted Chloe to be in the movie. And they said yes.
Finally, whenever there's a subject matter of cancer, in a way we kind of know what the ending is going to be for that character. So how much of it for you is the journey of getting there?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Tammy's journey and where she does end up, you never would have guessed from the beginning, really, or would you? I don't know. But the whole movie is that. I guess that's what making a movie is. Right?
Yeah.
Figuring out how to get to the end as smoothly and as gracefully as possible.
Well, the film is Tammy's Always Dying, and it comes out on VOD May the 1st. Yes. Amy Jo Johnson, it's such a great little film. Thanks so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good day. Stay safe in lockdown.
Okay. You too.
All righty. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.